mixed city. It's a mixed city. Israeli, Arab, Palestinian, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, depending on how you define. And very often then now, because it is the counting of the Omer, you're not going to find a Jewish wedding. So that's a good, sorry? There was a chuppah. Look, not everybody, again, abides by the tradition. So
would a rabbi in
an Orthodox rabbi would probably not perform that ceremony.
Like down the beach in Tel Aviv, they would, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we saw umpteen weddings the last year, right on the beach.
Yeah, it's it could also be
last night.
No, but it could also be. Who knows though? It could also be they were just doing their photos out. I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Also different traditions that tend to be a little different. Some will say from the beginning of the counting of the Omer until the 33rd day, which comes out next Thursday. Yes, I'll cut my hair. I'll have a wedding, but more than often the liberal view means the 33rd day of the Omer. When they're here, we've got the biblical time period, and during the biblical time period, the time period of Solomon, there are indeed the cedars of Lebanon. Where's Lebanon? Oh, way up there. The cedars of Lebanon being brought on floats where? To the port town of Jaffa, and then brought up to Jerusalem. Speed ahead a little bit to the second temple, and what you have is a similar story. King Herod then is building the temple at the time, and coming from Egypt, beautiful, beautiful doors donated by a man named Nicanor come from Egypt again to the port of Jaffa, and they likewise are supposed to come up to the temple. Why do I say they're supposed to? There's a storm at sea. In the storm at sea, the boat capsizes, and a miracle happens. And the Nicanor gates or doors float up to the shore, make their way then to Jerusalem, and they are placed then in the second temple. This idea of a stormy sea is something that repeats in the history of Jaffa. Jonah and the whale, this story with the gates, and if you look out in that direction, you can see Israeli flag flying off, and which is really a breaker of sorts. There is also a Greek mythological story connected to that. That is called Andromeda's Rock. If you know Greek mythology, Andromeda was the poor maiden who is chained to the rocks, right? So her boyfriend Perseus is going to save her, and so he comes on a winged sort of creature and carrying then a mirror so that he doesn't look at Medusa, destroys Medusa, saves Andromeda, and you've got a lot of weddings here. You know, you know, whether that's the reason why or it's just beautiful, who knows. But that's also about the stormy nature of the sea. Speeding ahead, and I'll make order out of this, but speeding ahead, when pilgrims used to come here to Jaffa, it's not an easy shoreline. So larger ships would have to dock just beyond where the Israeli flag is and come in on smaller boats, so that then you could come up to the port. This is what we were talking about in the bus, that one of those pilgrims, immigrants, David Green, he lands here in Jaffa, looks around and says, ooh, crowded, nasty. Starts walking up to Jerusalem and changes his name then to
David Ben-Gurion.
David Ben-Gurion. Now, filling in some of these gaps here. We know that somehow, first temple, second temple, we have building materials arriving here through the port. Makes sense. Think about it today. Receive building materials at a port. There's also then the New Testament story connected. If you turn around and you look at the steeple that's very obviously up on the hilltop there, that is St. Peter's Church. St. Peter in the New Testament. Who else lived in this area? Simon the tanner. Simon the tanner lives in Jaffa. Peter is sleeping in Jaffa, has a dream. I actually already packed my New Testament, otherwise I would have pulled it out and read it to you. But has a dream that all kinds of creatures are coming from the sky. And yeah, what's the continuation? Yeah,
And it was all things they couldn't eat.
right.
And it came down and he was hungry, and he said, I'm not going to eat this because it wasn't kosher.
Comes
or what.
down into a blanket.
Yeah, in a blanket, yeah, kind
Right.
of like a tablecloth. And God said, what I make clean, don't criticize what I make clean for you.
Okay. Meaning then, Peter's getting the message, it's okay to eat shrimp.
So was he the first Reformed rabbi?
Well, I'm not going to touch that one.
I'm going to give you a point.
Okay, let's set the tune, the continuation of that story. We're going to kind of leave the seafood out of it for a moment. Okay, so Peter's here, up the coast, right past Tel Aviv. You've got a town called Caesarea, built by King Herod in order to press the Romans. Right? Herod at this point, though, is dead. He's built this incredible point. It was the only other port at the time. It was either Caesarea or Jaffa. Earlier there had been another port called Dor, or further north, doesn't matter. Today we have Haifa, we have Ashdod. But back then it was basically Jaffa and Caesarea up there. And we have a Roman centurion, a soldier by the name of Cornelius. Cornelius is living in Caesarea. He sends his soldiers to come to Jaffa to bring him Peter. Peter then goes up the coast, meets with Cornelius, converts Cornelius, and Cornelius then becomes the first non-Jew to accept the teachings of Jesus. From there, that is then the beginning, really, of how Christianity spreads to the community that is no longer Judaic.